All right, so first of all, welcome everyone. I hope you are staying safe and warm if you are in the DMV area and are experiencing the big snowfall like us. We're really happy to have you here at our information session for February regarding the Masters of Science in Addiction Policy and Practice program. And I'll jump right into kind of describing the run of show for today, how things are going to run, and also introducing ourselves and the team, everyone who's on the call today, to tell you a little bit more about our program. First of all, as I said, we'll introduce ourselves and our kind of roles and relationships to the program. We'll look at the program itself, what makes this such a unique degree in the United States, as well as kind of at the larger level. Talk about career opportunities and alumni outcomes, what people have done with their MS ADPP degree. Look into admissions and what to know when applying to the program. And finally, of course, leaving plenty of time for your questions and our answers. So, first of all, my name is Jennifer Jansen. I use she, her pronouns, and I am the program coordinator for the Addiction Policy and Practice program. What that means is I am the sort of support system for graduate students from application to graduation. So I'm there to help you throughout the recruitment process, admissions, and also for matriculated students, I give advice on academic planning, advising other various programmatic needs. So you'll see me around a lot, and I'll likely be answering a lot of emails. From there, I will introduce our program director and our associate director, and then, of course, our special guest, Nikki, today. First of all, I will pass it to Professor Regina LaBelle.
Hi, thanks so much everyone for being here today. My name is Regina LaBelle. I am the program director and a professor in the Master of Science in Addiction Policy and Practice program. I teach the integrative seminar. I've been at Georgetown since 2017, and I'm also a Georgetown alumnus from the Law Center. I'll turn it over to Adam. Dr. Myers, you're on mute.
Yes, thank you. I'm Adam Myers, Associate Director of the program. My role is mainly kind of in the background. I don't teach a specific course, but I'm very active in the admissions process and some of the academic work of the program. My background's in medical science, but I've always had a kind of a side interest in some of the drugs that are and substances that are considered also in this program. And I'm also the co-director of the Health in the Public Interest Program, which is kind of a sister program to ADPP. And we also look at some of the issues around drugs and pharmaceutical company involvement in marketing of drugs, et cetera. So I look forward to meeting you all and taking questions. So let me now turn to Nikki, and I assume, Nikki, we're going to loop you in at some later points as well, but maybe you just want to give a quick overview of who you are.
Sure. Thank you so much. And it is such a pleasure to see so many interested individuals. And I'm really happy to be here to talk about a program that I am a huge advocate for. But my name is Nikki Soda. I am the executive director of Soda's Consulting. I graduated from the program in 2023, and I am a very outspoken supporter and fan of what the program has been able to offer me. So I'm looking forward to answering some questions and going a little more in depth about my experience with you all.
Great, thanks. So we're going to talk about the faculty. I'm the only full-time professor in the program. Everyone else is an adjunct. And they bring real-world experience to the field of addiction policy. And I'll start with the three on this slide. So Dr. Amanda Lattimore teaches the social epidemiology and addiction class in the fall. She is with the American Institute for Research, AIR. She's also a professor at Johns Hopkins University. Dr. Brandon Del Pozo is a professor of medicine and public health at Brown University. He's also a former police official. He was a He was the chief of police in Burlington, Vermont, and also was with New York Police Department. He teaches comparative approaches to addiction policy in the second summer. And then Dr. Wilson Compton is the deputy director of NIDA, which is with NIH. It's the largest research institution in the world on addiction, on drugs of addiction. He teaches in the fall and the spring, Foundations of Addiction 1 and 2. Next slide, please. And then the three next professors, Dr. Emily Einstein is also with the National Institute on Drugs and Abuse at NIDA. She teaches neurobiology in the fall. And then Chris Jones, Dr. Chris Jones is director for the Center for Substance Abuse Prevention at SAMHSA. He teaches 2 classes on data and statistics of drug policy. Dr. Talid El-Sabawy is also a professor. She's now at Wayne State. She's affiliated also with the O'Neill Institute. She teaches the fundamental course on U.S. addiction policy in summer 1. Next slide, please. And then rounding it out, we have 2 additional folks, Shelley Weissman, who is teaching this semester mental health and addiction law and policy. She's also affiliated with the O'Neill Institute. And then finally, Beth Connolly, who teaches healthcare financing in summer 1, which is a class that goes over how we finance the continuum of care for addiction in this country. Next slide, please. So, we're really fortunate to be at Georgetown, and this program, as Jenny said in the beginning, is unique. We started it really because of my experience having worked for a number of years in the public sector. I worked in the Obama administration as well as in the Biden administration at the Office of National Drug Control Policy, and I was also legal counsel to the mayor of Seattle for 8 years. And I found during that time that most of the policies that were put forward on addiction policy, alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs were all based pretty much in stigma and not in science and evidence. So that's what we'll talk to you a little bit about, what the curriculum is and how it reflects that. Next slide, please. So, the issue of overdose is always present in the United States. And we have come down a bit over the last year, but at its height, we were at 100,000 people who died of an overdose death, and 40% of people in this country knew someone who had died of an overdose. So while our program is not solely about opioids, it's not solely about the overdose epidemic, it really has driven how we are trying to approach addiction policy today. And as I said, we're really fortunate to have leaders in addiction policy who are teaching in this class, who are on the front lines, who also are writing journal articles regularly and really leading on addiction policy in the United States. Next slide, please. So we'll go with the program overview, but this is a picture of one of our alumni who she just graduated in this past summer. Erin Sabel Sezgin. She worked at the Office of National Drug Control Policy. She started as an intern and then took a job full time. And this is her departure photo with the president. And we have other photos. We're a bipartisan organization, but we were really proud of Erin. Next slide, please. So this is a 1-year program, and Nikki took the program over 2 years. She was our first part-time student. We have a few other part-time students right now, one who'll graduate this year and 2 more next year. But if you're full-time, it's 1 year. Part-time is 2 years. And tuition, we have a reduced rate for our tuition, so we don't provide scholarships, but we do provide $52,410 tuition rate, which is reduced from the regular tuition. It's 30 credits, and I'll go over what's included in that, and 1 elective. And then at the end, there's a capstone project that kind of rounds out the program. Next slide, please. So this is what the full-time program looks like. So as I mentioned, Professor Connolly teaches healthcare finance in the summer. And that summer one is intended to kind of give you a grounding in what you need to know for the rest of the year. So healthcare finance, how did we get where we are in terms of addiction policy in the United States? And then what is the data that we collect about addiction in this country? That's data analysis and statistics in Drug Policy 1 in the first summer. That's a virtual summer program. And then you come and join in the fall with Foundations of Neurobiology. That's Dr. Einstein. The integrative seminar, so just to give you a flavor of what we look at, this semester, we have a lot of guest speakers because I want students to be exposed to the field of addiction policy, which isn't a very big field. And I want you to get to know people in this field that will help you find jobs later. And I think you'll find, and Nikki can talk to this, that it's a really welcoming field. We're always looking for new people to join because, as I said, we are too small. So the integrative seminar takes what you're learning in your science classes and combines it with policy making. So not just what it should be, but how do you get there? And then Foundations of Addiction Psychiatry 1 and Social Epidemiology and Addiction, that's all in the fall. In the spring, again, in person, you have addiction and mental health law and policy. So there you learn about involuntary commitment laws and a number of other laws and how they relate to both addiction and mental health. The integrative seminar continues. You have Foundations of Addiction Psychiatry 2. And then in the spring, you take a policy elective. And you have a number of different classes you can take. A lot of the students take classes in leadership development, which is available through the Public Policy School. A couple students this semester are taking classes in qualitative measurement, so a social science class. And then in the summer, students take comparative approaches to addiction policy. And that's really, we've had the drug czar of Portugal has spoken. We've had a lot of people who do work in different countries. So how does the United States approach addiction, and how do other countries stack up against the United States approach? Data analysis 2, and then a mentored capstone, which is a topic of your choice. And I really encourage students to find topics that are going to resonate with them. What do you feel passionately about? And Nikki, I'm sure, can talk about what her capstone was as well. So next slide, please. So this is the part-time schedule. So it's finished in 2 years, but it looks like, just because of how the classes are, it's calendar year to calendar year. And so you finish it up with the capstone and the comparative class. But throughout that time, you're with your cohort as well, and you do take the policy elective. Next slide, please. So where have our students ended up? I'll ask Nikki to talk about her career in a minute. So it's 30% of our students in the nonprofit sector. This is a picture of a student that was in our first cohort, Ben Freyfeld. He works for the state of Maryland at the Opioid Abatement Council. So here he's teaching, instructing Maryland Governor Wes Moore and the Lieutenant Governor on how to use naloxone. He does a lot of naloxone training as well. So students are with the American Society of Addiction Medicine, National Association of Addiction Treatment Professionals, which is where Nikki was before, and we'll talk about that. DC Department of Behavioral Health, but a lot of people are in state and local governments as well, and these nonprofits. And we also have students who have gone on to med school as well as law school. One thing that is very important in our program is we connect our students with a career mentor. They're connected in the first semester of the program, and that is an opportunity for students to get to know someone who's already in the field, and you can kind of, they can work with you throughout the year as often as you want. It's a self-directed mentorship program, but we'll connect you with someone who we think can help you with your career. Nikki, do you want to talk a little bit about your career and how the ADPP helped you with that?
Absolutely. Thank you, Regina. And it's so exciting to see. So Ben was in the first cohort, the gentleman in the picture, and you form such a close relationship with the cohort. And I feel especially lucky because I was able to do the first cohort and the second cohort. And to be able to watch the different paths that the individuals go on is really, is very exciting. And there's 3 of them that I have very close relationships with, and we stay in constant touch, and they're all over the country and they're doing kick-ass things. And so it's really, that's the picture made me smile. So I will start a little bit about my career path, and I am going to call the elephant in the room where I do realize I'm a little bit older, and I had I had a few years under my belt working in the behavioral health field, but had a very large passion for addiction policy. And I am a woman in long-term recovery, and I had the professional experience, the personal experience, but what was really calling to me was to be able to have the educational experience, to look at it. I was looking at it as a triangle, to be able to really have all 3 components to legitimize my seat at the table. So I see addiction policy as one of the main ways to really make effective change. And so for me, it was really important to be able to find a program that would provide me all the tools that I needed to be able to articulate and to really understand and be able to help educate and feel that I more than received all of those components within the program. I was in the behavioral health field working for residential drug and alcohol treatment centers for a handful of years. I started doing alumni work, then I became the director of national outreach and marketing. My husband and I opened up a treatment center, so I had experience doing some policy and procedure work. And then I went to work for the National Association of Addiction Treatment Providers. And what my role was there was the director of membership. And so I traveled across the country visiting different residential treatment centers and learning what was working well and what wasn't working well. And it was during my time there that I really became passionate about policy. And so that is what had me to start looking around at what was available. And I feel like it was very serendipitous, and the stars aligned for this program to have been kicked off right when I had been looking for a little bit. And it really dotted all the I's and crossed the T's that I was looking for. Dr. Myers and I were talking a little bit before. So being one of the first ones in the program, there was still a couple of things to work out, as things when they're in their infancy are, right? And it was such a wonderful journey to be on. And a couple of things I wanted to point out that Regina was talking about, the overall program. You work very closely with your cohort. And so it's nice to have a variety of opinions and a variety of personalities, because that really makes it a well-rounded experience. And so that was something that I really enjoyed. But for the capstone that Regina was talking about, I had the pleasure of finding a really good mentor, which the school is very helpful for. And I did my capstone on shortages in the behavioral health workforce. And so at the time, I realize it's a very popular topic now, but 2 years ago, it was really kind of starting to be on the cusp of it. And what came about from that capstone project is I have been able to speak on the topic at 2 different conferences. I was able to help write a paper on it. And I've also been able to do a couple different webinars on the national platform to talk about workforce shortages. And something else that's kind of cool, I think, is they bring in a lot of phenomenal guest speakers. That is the creme de la creme, is what I say when talking about this. And one of the guest speakers that Regina brought in for an integrative seminar, I was brave and asked to have a cup of coffee after, or as some time, to be able to learn more about their path. And so we had coffee and have a very nice professional relationship. And we together just pitched to do do a presentation in June in DC on shortages, excuse me, in the workforce and addiction policy. And so I'm very excited about that. But that's one of the many gifts of this program, was being able for those connections. And so I am extremely passionate about residential treatment. And what this program allowed me to do was really to build up the tools that I didn't have, to feel confident enough that once I graduated, I left the National Association and have started my own consulting company. And part of that was I felt empowered to be able to utilize the knowledge that I had to help others with addiction policy. And so 2 other notes is that with the not only the guest speakers, but the professors I found were so willing to go above and beyond to help. And I'll tell you that when I see them at conferences or at events, they are always more than willing to stop and talk with us. And Dr. Jones is one that stands out. I was personally very intimidated to take the data course. Like, for me, numbers is not my jam. And they had a way of really breaking it down to make it manageable. So if you were like me and that statistics and data was a little intimidating, please know that they work very well with you to ensure that you understand and you get the extra support that you need for that. And I came away from this program not only feeling confident, but feeling like I actually had advocates from some of the professors, Regina and Dr. Myers included in that. They were very helpful too with looking for jobs after I'd graduated, and I felt fully supported the whole entire time. So those are a couple of my little that is my experience from going through the program. And I do not feel like I would be able to be as successful with what I'm doing right now without the education that I received. And part of having that MS after your name has opened a number of doors for me that were not there before.
Thanks so much, Nikki. Next slide, please, Jenny. All right. So, Georgetown is an important part of the DC community. We're not just the nation's capital. It's a city with a lot of people who live here, many of whom experience substance use disorder and or are in need of other assistance. So a lot of our students get involved in the community with naloxone distribution or fentanyl test strips or other test strips. Our students have been really fortunate that when they start, September is recovery month. So there's recovery walks that students have attended. The RX Summit is something which is in April every year. Several of our students and as well as faculty and alumni attend. Our students have attended White House events, and Binge Bar is a local alcohol-free bar that has done a few events in partnership with us. One is this Georgetown Day, and it's a day of a lot of celebration on campus, and so we wanted to make sure to provide an alcohol-free alternative for folks who are at Georgetown. So those are just some of the events and other activities that our students have been involved in, which is unique to the nation's capital. Next slide, please, Jenny. So Ben, as we said before, has talked about the program, and he's at Maryland. Anyone, I often will connect people with alumni who are interested in talking to folks about the program. Next slide, please. I think this is Nikki. And Nikki, you just heard from Nikki. All right, next slide, please.
All right, so thank you so much again to Nikki for sharing those wonderful words about the program. Now I'll go into talking a little bit about what to expect when applying to the program and financing your degree. All right, so first of all, here is a handy application checklist. Feel free to screenshot or take a picture with your phone if that's helpful for you. I'll go through everything in the list in more detail now as well. All of this is handled through an online application portal through the Graduate School of Arts and Sciences. So you'll complete that application form online. You will also be required to submit an application fee for all applications we're taking until April 1st. That is $90, I believe. Next up is your statement of purpose. This is called the academic statement of purpose in the portal, and this gives you about 300 to 600 words to discuss yourself, your academic journey, what brought you to apply to this program, and what you hope to get out of it. From here, we're really hoping to learn about your kind of professional and personal goals and where you think this degree can take you. Although it's listed as optional, as we mentioned, we are a very kind of small and focused cohort and a small and focused field. We are really passionate about this program, and it was built recently because of a gap that exists in the addiction policy field. For that reason, we do strongly urge applicants to fill out the personal background statement that is listed as optional in the portal. It's about the same amount of words, and it gives you an opportunity to expand on your personal background, your own experiences, and how they contribute to your interest in this field. This is a great way to demonstrate how you see yourself being an active contributor in our community, in the larger DC community, and we really just like having any opportunity to get to know you a bit better through your application. Next up, we require your resume or curriculum vitae and 2 letters of recommendation. If you're early in your education or completing a degree, we'd love to have at least 1 recommendation from an academic you've worked with, like a professor, to get a sense of what you're like in the classroom. But we also do have a number of students and applicants who are long out of school or mid-career, so we will accept 1 or both of those letters from a trusted professional, such as someone you have worked with. Another good thing to know is we will consider your application submitted once you've entered the names and the emails of the recommenders by the application deadline, April 1st. So you have a couple weeks after that submission to make sure that they upload their letters, and we'll be sure to notify you when we're still waiting on those letters, but it won't be subject to anything like a late fee. Next up, as soon as it's available, we'll need a transcript that, for those of you who are still completing degrees, shows on it that you have completed your undergraduate degree. Sometimes we've had people submit official transcripts too early, and that results in us not being able to see just that they've completed their degree. But again, kind of same deal as recommenders. We will consider your application submitted and be able to review it once you have submitted unofficial transcripts by that deadline. Just know that we will eventually need an official copy in order to make a final decision with the graduate school and matriculate any admitted students. Finally, for those of you who studied outside of the United States, we require a demonstration of English language proficiency test for anyone who did not attend a school where English was the primary language of instruction. So even if you are a non-native English speaker, if you attended a school that was primarily taught in English, you are exempt from this requirement. However, for everyone else, you'll see on the right here in this blue box, the minimum required scores on the 2 types of language proficiency tests we accept, the TOEFL and the IELTS. And you'll also see that we do not require a GRE. You're welcome to submit it, but in no means do you need to submit one in order for your application to be considered complete. So what does it take to be considered eligible for the program? First of all, applicants must hold a bachelor's degree or equivalent from an accredited institution. That should translate to a 4-year undergraduate degree of United States study. For those of you who, again, studied outside of the country and aren't quite sure, we really prefer getting the WES or the WES evaluation. We'll also accept a few others that are within the NACES or NACES sort of consortium of credential evaluation services. But WES, we can easily read and tell if you completed the equivalent of a 4-year undergraduate degree. Again, of course, we want to see any and every way that you're interested in addiction policy. Interest also in public policy, social science, healthcare, or community service are all strongly preferred, and these are all parts of our interdisciplinary curriculum that we really hold dear. And of course, because people from our program come from a lot of different backgrounds, consideration will also be given to individuals with lived experience. Finally, the Graduate School of Arts and Sciences requires a minimum GPA of 3.0 on a 4.0 scale. However, with all of this being said, I do want to draw your attention to that blue box in the bottom right-hand corner. I want to say that firstly, we conduct a holistic review of applications. What that means is we have had students who come straight from undergraduate degrees. We've had mid-career professionals join our programs. We've had students in long-term recovery or with experience with the incarceral system. With our small size and our mission-driven program, we really want to get to know all of our applicants, and we acknowledge that not everyone has the same professional or academic journey. So, with all this in mind, if you are concerned about any of these eligibility requirements, we really do encourage you to reach out to us via our program email, which I'll put up at the end. It is addictionpolicy@georgetown.edu. Or you can reach out to me directly. If you feel like you are otherwise a very compelling applicant, we are able to make appeals to the graduate school for admission. All right, and those application deadlines I mentioned, the priority deadline has now passed, but we will continue to accept applications on a rolling basis until April 1st, 2025. Usually it takes about 6 weeks to hear back from us. We're slowly getting through our priority applications now, and classes will begin for everyone in July of 2025. And you'll also note that application fee there of $90. All right, so finally, let's talk a little bit about financing your degree. As you saw a bit earlier, our tuition rate is confirmed at about $1,700 per credit, compared to about $2,550 for the typical grad school rate. So we already are at a reduction, and we don't offer additional merit aid for this reason. However, there are a number of great resources across Georgetown that I'm happy to help you get in touch with. The majority of our students finance their degrees through multiple sources, such as external scholarships and employment benefits. If you are currently working at an institution that has employer tuition benefits, definitely reach out to them, see what the stipulations of those are. That's one of the big reasons we have a part-time version of this program, so that students who are working full-time in order to fund their degrees are able to make the degree work for them. And for that reason, we also typically have most of our classes after around 3 or 4 p.m. The Graduate Career Center also offers a number of resources to find and apply to external scholarships and fellowships. There is also specifically an office for graduate fellowships and awards. All of those will help you on their website, look at different loans, scholarships. They'll give advice on when to start applying for them if you're looking for funding for a certain semester. So they are all really excellent resources, and I can kind of point you to specific pages if you're interested. Next up, if you are eligible for Veterans Affairs benefits, we have an office, the GU Veteran Service, that you can contact for more information on starting that application process. The free application for federal student aid, or the FAFSA, is open now for everyone looking for loans and work study designations for the 2025 academic year. We really encourage grad students to do that because they are eligible and it's a free application. So you can just see if you're eligible for federal low-interest student loans or for specifically designated work study positions on campus. Additionally, we have work study positions generally across campus, which can be a great way to get to know different departments, maybe get some more research experience being a research assistant, teaching assistant, working with different programs that may be of interest to you, or interning across the university. And students are eligible to work up to 20 hours a week at Georgetown while also studying here. Finally, for the Georgetown Office of Revenue and Receivables, this is the office that handles tuition payments, and they also offer monthly installment payment plans for tuition. You can sign up for this through their billing portal for Georgetown. And if you have any questions about this, feel free again to reach out to me, and I can provide a little more information and some links. All right, so again, I do really want to extend our gratitude for all of you coming out, listening to us today, and we want to open up the floor to you now if you have any questions. So feel free to use the raise hand function, go off of mute, or type in the chat if there's anything you'd like to ask all of us today. Vanessa, I see that you asked if housing is available for graduate students. Thanks for asking that. There is some housing available as we develop our capital campus, which is more towards the kind of center of DC. It's not always the most convenient, I would say, for addiction policy and practice students because our classes are primarily on the Hilltop campus, which is closer to the Roslyn and DuPont Circle neighborhoods in DC. So there is some available, but there's also, in general, something that we really recommend is going on the Georgetown Office of Neighborhood Life's housing portal because they have features to help you find roommates who are looking to find housing near main campus at Georgetown, even if you're not interested in the specific offerings there. But they also do have apartment offerings and other things like that that are affiliated with the university, in addition to the specifically designated grad student housing, which I believe is also furnished.
So,
Vanessa,
sorry.
sorry, go ahead.
The other question was about offering the degree online. So at this time, there's no plans to offer the master's degree online, but we do have approval for a certificate program that could be virtual. And that's something that, we're looking to the future a year or so to offer, but no plans for the master's program to be online. Could you speak more on possible research opportunities students had access to or opportunities where students have used their skills in the field while completing the program? So I'll turn to Nikki in a second because she was a part-time student. We've had students work, in any number of places. Right now, I have one student who is interning at HHS's SAMHSA, the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration. We have students who have interned at Shatterproof, which is a national organization that works on treatment and stigma issues. I have another student right now who is interviewing at the National Association of State and State Alcohol and Drug Abuse Directors, NASADAD. I've had two students intern there. A couple have interned at the Drug Policy Alliance. And I have one student right now who was supposed to be starting an internship at ONDCP, and they got rid of their internship program, so she's looking for other opportunities now. And then there are we don't have research opportunities in our in our program. But there are other research opportunities that students can do across the campus. So Nikki, I don't want to, can you say anything about your experience, working in the field while you were completing your program?
Yeah, for sure. So it's definitely manageable if you have support. I will say that. And so I did work full time while I was in the program. And I also was thinking, Regina, there was there was one individual who went to do some research for ASAM in policy. And so I did work full time while doing the program, if that answers the question.
What are some of the qualities to make this applicant stand out? What we're looking for are people who we think can, can succeed in the program, but who are really passionate. And I was thinking about this today as we were looking at applications. It's, there are some, basic requirements for GPAs, et cetera. But are these individuals that feel strongly and will add to the addiction policy field? We had a speaker last week who spoke to our class who said, "There's no one here from the South, Regina." And so we do look for geographic diversity as well, because this is an issue that's across the country. So really a personal passion for why you're doing this program is what we look at. The international students eligible to enroll in part-time is not a question I know the answer to. Adam, do you know?
Sure. So in order to attend the program in person, you need to have a student visa or some other kind of visa for which you might be eligible. And the student visa in particular, isn't available to part-time students. So that's a problem. If you're here in the United States for another reason, there's no reason why an international student couldn't be part-time in the program. As long as you have legitimate visa, perhaps you're here because your spouse is working in the United States. But if we eventually have a online certificate program, that's another story, although that would have to be decided upon later since it's going to involve some number of in-person appearances.
Yes, the Office of Global Services website is a great resource for those kind of common questions. But if you're seeking to apply for a student visa through Georgetown, that is only available for people who are studying full-time. So again, as Dr. Myers mentioned, if you have a visa for another reason, that may be possible. But if you're seeking for a visa through our institution, I think we're not able to offer that to part-time students.
Another question is how are career mentorship matches made, and at what point? So usually it's in October. I want to, see you a little bit more than once or twice. You tell me what you would like in a mentor. So you want to work in the specific field, you're interested in being matched with a specific type of person, you're in long-term recovery, you want someone who also is in recovery. We ask you, we have a questionnaire we send out, and then we do our best to match you with the person that we think will best suit. There are a lot of people who in the field who want to help, and so I do try to match you with folks that reflect your interest. Nikki, did you want to add anything?
No, I was nodding my head in agreement where I did not come across one single individual who wasn't willing to help. And so between Regina, Shelley Wiseman too, who's one of the faculty members, has been so willing to go above and beyond to help match. And so that is something that I really found very, very valuable, because even to this day, if I'm in need of something or need help connecting with someone, they're still willing to do that. And so that career mentor helped lead to almost everyone getting jobs from that first cohort.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I have a question I want to ask Nikki. So we accept students with anywhere from 0 to a lot of scientific background knowledge. Where did you fit in that, and how did it work out in that regard?
So if I would say, if there's a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being the smartest, best at science, I would probably be like a 4.55, just because it had been a while since I had been since I had graduated with my undergrad, which was in communication and marketing. But what I found, Dr. Myers, is that I was able to easily settle in. And when you allot the correct time, when you allot the appropriate amount of time to study, you're in class every day, every time that there's class. The professors are more than happy to answer the questions that you have. And our cohort was very tight to be able to, we studied together at times. And so I was able to get an A in the specific science class with not feeling fully confident in my science abilities. So if you're willing to put the time and the effort into it, you will be able to have the resources to succeed.
Yeah, I remember your trepidation about taking the neuroscience course. I'll just point out that if anyone else is worried about that, we do have some courses that are available free online that we suggest that you take before you come to the program to get some of that background. That's something we didn't have when Nikki was in the program, but
Always
it's
been
worked out well for us.
Yes.
And
So
the
someone
same
was
for
asking
people.
Regina about capstones.
Yeah. So let me just follow up on that and I'll talk about the capstone. The same for people who come from a science background who don't necessarily have a policy background. We have some MOOCs that the massive online classes that we can recommend so that you can start with understanding a little bit about, our process of government. So capstone project is, as I've said, the last semester, and it should be a project of passion. It's kind of a thesis, but it's more than just a thesis, and it's not an analysis of a problem. It's an approach to addressing a problem. So there are two pieces to it. One is the written document, the written paper, and the second is a policy project. So we've had students, last year I had a student who was writing about increasing prevention education in schools, and she did a podcast with people who work in the prevention field. And another student who has actually gone on to work, to do a lot of work on prevention. She lost her brother to an overdose. She did a film, short film um, on grief for people who have lost loved ones to an overdose, and the need for more research and the unique what it was a compelling argument for more research and more work in this area. And so she did that. She has since gone on to now she's working with Stanford and some other universities on exactly that, on identifying, how we can better serve people who have experienced the loss of a loved one, which, as I said earlier, is about 40% of people know someone who died of an overdose. So the only thing I ask is I don't care what the topic is, but it has to be a policy topic and it has to be something you care about. And Nikki, I don't know if you want to say yours was on workforce, so.
Right. Mine was on workforce. And as I mentioned, I've been able to speak at 2 conferences on it and potentially doing another one this summer, and have had the opportunity to do a couple webinars on it as well. So that was very helpful. And one of my cohort classmates did her capstone on gambling, and we still talk about it to this day, where there's different gambling issues that come up, and I'll send them to her. And it was very interesting to hear, but a lot of them have carried off that from that. It wasn't just submitting a project; it was something that we all were passionate about that we've been able to carry on, which is pretty cool.
Great. Kelly asked, how can the online courses be accessed? I'm sorry. I thought you said assessed. So we'll make those recommendations. They're usually, as Jenny said, or Adam said, they're usually free. So they're easy to access. Any other questions? All right.
Well, I'll put our contact information up now if anyone has any other questions that occur to them after the program. But again, thank you very much for attending. It was a real pleasure to see all of you. And we look forward to keeping in touch. The ways you can do so are up on the screen here. Firstly, our program email is addictionpolicy@georgetown.edu. You can follow our Instagram or our LinkedIn to see what our students are up to. A lot of really great events. We had a whole slew of exciting events in September for National Recovery Month. And as students start working on their capstones and their internships, we're excited to be posting a lot more content about their studies. And you'll also see more updates on our information sessions, admitted student sessions. If any of you in the crowd have been admitted to the program, congratulations. And we are also hoping to have an admitted student session in person on campus on March 28th. You'll also see our program phone there right by my title card. and my information if you want to reach out to the program. So if there aren't any other last minute questions, everyone have a great rest of your day, and I'll pass it off to Professor LaBelle really quickly.
Thanks. I had something I wanted to add. So on March 20th, on Georgetown campus, we don't have the location nailed down quite yet, but we'll make sure you get an invitation if anyone's local. We're having a panel called Grief to Action. And as I mentioned, Gina Malagold is one of our alumni. She'll be speaking along with Song for Charlie. And then another individual, Tom Farley, who lost his brother, Chris Farley, who was an SNL alumni a while ago. Tom is a Georgetown alumnus. So this panel will be a discussion, we're co-sponsoring this with my other hat at O'Neill. And, we'll highlight a lot of the work that our folks who have gone through the program have done, as well as highlighting the issue for Georgetown. So we'll make sure that you get the invitation if you're in town. It'd be great to see you.
Yeah. Regina, I just wanted to add in there too that I'm happy to provide my email if there is anyone who would like to reach email or cell. If there's anyone else who would like to ask questions, I'm more than happy and have talked to a handful of people if you have other side questions that you don't want to ask in front of the group.
Great. Thanks, Nikki. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a good day.